Hey everyone, you're listening to the 805 Uncensored. We are a podcast on the Anti Capitalist Podcast Network, hosted by three leftists myself, Cami, and Heather. This podcast covers a variety of topics from music to politics, news, and philosophy, and more. There are no limits, which is why we call ourselves Uncensored, so please follow us on your podcast and social media platforms of choice. This will be episode number 99, and we're going to be diving into aliens and drones, the drone sightings that have been spotted across the US and really around the world. Um, so far, it's just me, Heather, and Cami. But into the episode, Craig will be joining us too from Voices from the Left. So, with all further ado, I'll give it to you, Heather, to introduce this.
Awesome. So I thought that going over kind of like the timeline of things, because I know that a lot of people don't exactly know where all this alien drone UAP stuff came from. So in March of this year, the Pentagon randomly, out of nowhere, issues a report stating that there is no evidence of UFOs. And I just think that's kind of funny too, because it's like, why did you release this report? Right? Like they randomly released this report March of 2024 this year, and then that was in advance of a congressional hearing that wasn't had then until November 13th of this year. And at that congressional hearing, there were several intelligence officials, and they totally contradicted that report by the Pentagon at that hearing. And remember that everything you say before Congress under oath, if you're found to have lied, like you can go to prison for that. So I don't think that there are actually a lot of people that are not politicians that would actually lie under oath. So I believe what these people said. They said that there has been ongoing secret UAP and UFO identification projects, which I think a lot of people generally knew. Uh, they confirmed that the US government has in its possession collected non biologics from UAPs and UFOs. One of the witnesses stated that they have evidence that aliens have lived in the ocean for centuries. And all of the witnesses clarified that UAPs are happening and not coming from or made by the US government. So I think that this also coincided a conspiracy theory that went viral. I don't know, did you guys hear about this with the Trump and Rogan?
Yeah.
Did you want to say something? Because you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I had one thing that I wanted to bring up because this just like totally contradicts everything that the government's saying. We had multiple naval pilots in recent memory that said they personally spotted
Yeah.
UAPs and UFOs. And I specifically remember it being off the coast of San Diego in the early
Mhm.
2000s, like 2004, and it was caught on video.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, there are so many contradicting reports. And the one thing that I will say is that it it is possible that that's coming from like the fact that there's no real communication between government agencies. So the Pentagon could have no evidence of UAPs and UFOs, although I find that hard to believe with the number of like military personnel that have reported them. But you could have like different agencies experiencing different things at the same time. Here, let me get Craig the link to the document really quick. How do I do
Can
that?
you please tell us what the difference between UAP and UFO is?
Yeah, so a UAP is an unidentified anomalous phenomenon, and a UFO is an unidentified foreign object. And so, sorry, Jordan, are you able to share the link to Craig?
I
Oh,
just
I
put it
can.
in
great,
the chat.
perfect. Perfect. So that's actually a really good question, Cami, because I think that like we're hearing people say UAP more often now, and I actually believe that that's intentional, because what we're seeing now are people reporting a lot of things that are not necessarily a UFO. They're reporting plasmoids. They're reporting, which people have credible video evidence of. There's
What is
this
a plasmoid?
So Heather, one quick thing. UAP is unidentified aerial phenomena.
aerial phenomenon. Yeah, aerial phenomenon. So, so I think that um, that that's intentional to give more of a blanket for people to be experiencing all these different things, not just a like a flying saucer, right? Because when you think of UFO, you think of flying saucer, the round thing with the lights and the beam, and that's not what people are really seeing. People are seeing drones. They're seeing that are not identified, that are the size of an SUV. People are seeing these like round discs that are kind of shiny. People are seeing like balls of light that are called plasmoids. So there's like a variety of things that I think fall under the term UAP, whereas UFO is I think a more narrow definition. So I'm sorry. So are you guys familiar with the Rogan Trump conspiracy?
No.
Okay. So just prior to that hearing in Congress, like around the end of October, conspiracy goes viral because Donald Trump went on Joe Rogan, as we remember. That was very consequential in the outcome of the election, as it turned out. So back in 2009, before Trump ran for president and before Rogan was even a really big content creator, podcaster, this guy ran a whole bunch of simulations into a computer program that he created, and it spat out a ton of predictions about the future. And very few of them have been true. I don't know anything about the guy or his identity. I just know that the prediction went viral about Trump and Rogan because in 2009, the computer program predicted that Donald Trump would go on Joe Rogan. And remember, this is before Trump had even run for president the first and won the first time. This was before Rogan was a big podcaster. And then the other thing that computer program predicted was that Trump would go on some kind of a show with Joe Rogan, and 36 days after that public conversation, there would be a firefight of some sort in the sky between humans and aliens. Crazy shit, right? So that whole conspiracy went viral, and I think that the November 13th hearing in Congress just gave it fuel, because now there's people talking about the fact that they said that aliens have been living in the ocean, and Trump went on Rogan and this guy had predicted that he would do that when there was nothing to make the computer program predicted it when there was nothing for it to think that would have happened. And then so the prediction would have occurred on December 22nd, or I'm sorry, December 2nd. November 28th, you have your first drone sighting recorded over a residential area in New Jersey. So people, I think, were very like ready for something like that because of these conspiracies going around and because of the congressional hearing. And then all of a sudden these, very real sightings start to occur. So it took several weeks of those drone sightings on the East Coast before it gained much traction. By mid-December, there were confirmed sightings in seven states on the East Coast, as well as along the West Coast, Southwest states like Arizona. There are also sightings of drones and plasmoids over the U.S. Embassy in the UK, several in Venezuela and Germany. And now there are other things happening. And here I have this video. This video kind of gives me the chills. You have all these videos now of people that are like all these people are going out to like find these things now, right? and they're driving around and they'll be like underneath one. And some of these things are the size of an SUV, so much bigger than a commercial drone that you could buy, right? And the government is now at this point, like mid-December, they are denying it. The White House is ignoring it. The DoD is saying it's not theirs. The Pentagon is saying we don't know what they are, but they're safe. If you don't know what they are, how do you know they're safe? But people are driving around underneath these things, taking videos, and they start to have like radio disturbances. And I don't know if you guys saw that M. Night Shyamalan movie, Signs, but it's just like that scene where they're like on the car and they have the baby monitor and it's like clicking. And here, I have a video. Do you have the link, Jordan?
Is it the reports of radio disruptions?
Yeah, you got to hear this. It's
Yeah,
creepy.
I have it
It's
pulled up.
creepy.
Can you guys see it?
Mm-mm.
No.
No.
Fuck. It says I'm sharing.
So that's creepy, right?
Have certain electro-domestic, um, like your microwave or like, you know, when you used to like connect to like the internet through like a wire or whatever,
Mhm.
and like the phone would like make a noise or like something weird would happen before you would get a phone call. I feel like,
Interference.
yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is that if these things, if you are under these things and they are the size of an SUV, I mean, they're gonna create some sort of disturbance. And I think that that disturbance is more, I guess, validation that they are there. It doesn't indicate what they are. Um, so after these videos start going viral and all this stuff, now you have like tons and tons of like hundreds of videos showing up. And a lot of them have been debunked. A lot of them, I also have this other video. It's a little bit longer. I don't know if you want to share it or not, but Larry Hogan shares this image.
I
Uh,
don't think I could
and
show the one from Pac-Man because I think YouTube will flag me for copyright.
yeah. So Larry Hogan, the former governor of is it Maryland? Yeah. He shares all these photos in a tweet about how he was outside his house and he sees all these drones and they were Orion's belt. They were the stars of Orion's belt. Like how embarrassing, right? But other than that, you have other credible videos and photos of these SUV sized drones over people's homes. People in some areas in New Jersey were starting to report, I don't remember what it was. It was, I think, watery eyes and some like, I think Kraig mentioned it was like, it sounded like Havana syndrome. Jordan, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the reason that we know that it's real and not a conspiracy, that there are actual drones, is the way that the Pentagon and the government's acting about it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so obvious.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about these interviews that they have with Kirby and Miller, and
Mhm.
it's beyond comical.
Yeah.
Smug bastards. It's just
There
smug
was
bastards.
exactly. There was one video of a drone that the US or somebody, a drone went towards a plasmoid and the plasmoid shot something out and the drone went down. One drone crashed. They couldn't find any of the shit. from it. There was like news footage of fire trucks and hazmat vehicles and cops all over the place trying to find this thing. They couldn't find it. The FBI issued a public memo saying that if anyone sees a downed drone, they should approach it in full hazmat and PPE. And then just yesterday, the spokesman for the DoD said that none of these drones are their property. And then Trump made this interesting comment. I have a video of it if you want to share it, or Trump on drones.
This is bound to be amazing. That's all I know. This video will be theater.
Well, it's like
I think if it's the one that I'm thinking of, I think I remember actually in a weird way agreeing with what he said.
Well, the thing about it with Trump, when I saw this video, I was like, buckle up, because he doesn't give a fuck. He's just going to say what he wants to say. He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck about classification of materials. He doesn't give a fuck about anything. Okay, there he is.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people. And they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster. Want to know the truth? They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe.
And I agree with Trump. Like, why the fuck they're just fomenting this chaos and conspiracy by denying it and not doing anything about it. And he has a good point. You know, here on the West Coast, if there is like a heightened security risk, they start flying military planes up and down the coast as a precautionary measure. So you're telling me that they do that just if there's a heightened security risk, but they're just letting all these fucking drones fly around, do whatever they want? No way.
That's why, like, you guys remember we didn't stop hearing about this fucking Chinese spy balloon for days. And then the government, of course, bragged about how they shot it out of the sky. And it was Beijing spying on us.
So what do you guys think the drones are? And the plasmoids?
I have no idea.
I don't know what they are. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Cam.
I just think it might be just to get the focus out of other issues. Just like a distraction. I think they might be doing something with them apart from that, but I think it's like, because I feel like same thing happened with QAnon, how people were like so immersed in this like QAnon world while Trump was in office, and like it disappeared all of a sudden, and then now it's all about this drones or this UFOs or whatever. I mean, I think there might be something there more as well, but I feel like it might be a distraction. I don't know.
Jordan has his hands up.
Yeah, going off your point, Cammy, it kind of reminds me of how, like in recent history, it seems like whenever there's been something really big in the news, there's been all of a sudden, out of nowhere, some effort by the government to decriminalize weed somewhere, or try to kind of just distract away from that and then bring in the culture war, and then just kind of appeal to what people's interests are in that way and then distract them. So yeah, I think there could be some credence to that.
At the same time, like, I wonder how much of a budget they really have for distractions at this point, because the US government is broke. The US government is broke as fuck. And this is some of these drones would be millions and millions of dollars to just fly around just to distract people. I don't know. Craig, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they are. I'm sure some are drones. I know, like you said, people are mistaking constellations for drones, which is unbelievably hilarious. People are mistaking helicopters and airplanes for drones. Um, it's not to say there aren't actually drones up there. Does any government agency know what it is? Probably. I don't know. I mean, we have mountains and mountains and mountains of declassified data just from the CIA alone about all kinds of crazy shit they've been doing that they deny or say nothing about, and 20 years later they declassify it and like, oops, we killed all those guys. Yep, we did that. Of course they could be doing it and not saying anything.
Yeah.
There's one thing, I don't remember the guy's name, some ludicrous, well, I don't even need to qualify it, some congressman came out and said it was from an Iranian mothership,
Right.
which has been thoroughly debunked. But I just think it's amazingly hilarious that some guy I'd never heard of, I'm pretty sure he was a Republican, just comes out and says that. Like, oh, yeah, like amazingly hilarious. Like, I think that's just awesome.
Just been hearing a bunch of just imperialist nonsense. Like, oh,
yes,
we need to make sure that it's not China or Russia.
Right. And like, as far as like aliens go or anything like that, I don't remember the person, so I apologize. I can't credit them, but if aliens really are here and they've traveled hundreds of light years using faster than light technology or wormhole technology, they're not fucking starting in New Jersey.
Yeah.
They're not showing themselves in fucking New Jersey. I guarantee that. Sorry, any New Jersey peeps listening. I've been to New Jersey. They don't give a fuck about New Jersey.
Also, take us the fuck with you.
Yes, right. Can I sign up for the trip? Like, yeah. It's hilarious.
There were two, well, for a while, people thought that they were the nuclear emergency support team who looks for evidence of like dirty bombs smuggled in, radioactive materials smuggled in. And I think that really highlighted how little people know about like all of the layers of like government there are, like just like I said about like the planes that fly up and down the coast, like most people don't know that. Like most people don't even know that the government, I mean, is surveilling us, first of all, to incredible levels, and it almost acts paranoid sometimes in effort to, I guess, proactively defend us. And so I thought that was kind of interesting. And then I saw two like interviews with like historians or experts on the news. And one of them, he said that that in the years to come, we will see more and more drones in the sky, and people are just going to have to get used to them. And I was thinking about like Amazon has been testing drones for some time for delivery, haven't they? And so that was one thing. And then also like even like Uber Eats. I mean, you can have like there are drones that do deliver like little robots. They're on the ground robots, but I've seen them for a couple years now. They have one at UCLA. If anybody gets like Uber Eats delivery, it's delivered by a little robot. And so I could see them doing that in the sky. But then another one who was a historian who was on CNN and News Nation, he said that that it's the military 100% and that it's a sign that World War III has begun, which I thought was pretty weird. Like, do we believe that? I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the chances of there being an actual World War III aren't very good, despite all the posturing. I don't think it's just going to continue to be proxy wars from the Imperial core, from what I could,
Right,
from
and
my very limited knowledge.
right,
of
and
it.
can we also just kind of disregard this idea in people's minds that World War III is going to be this long, drawn-out battle, like
Yeah.
on fields? No, it's going to be fucking nuclear, and it's going to be 4 minutes long.
Yeah. What did
Yeah.
Einstein say? Like, I don't know what World War III is going to be fought with, but I know that World War IV will be
Sticks and
fought with sticks
stones.
and stones. Yeah.
That's right.
Probably. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was wondering if one of you could outline a little bit more what a PSYOP is, because I saw this great video explaining how government PSYOPs work, and they highlighted several like times in the past when the government, like the Gulf of Tonkin and Operation Northwoods, and then also post 9/11 coverage that was meant to like get the Patriot Act passed. And some of it seems similar to what like we're experiencing now with these drones, but I don't really understand. Like, is a PSYOP just a distraction or is it something else?
I mean, I've pulled up the wiki here.
Yeah,
We
read the
all know
definition.
That's reliable.
tell
For most of it.
Tell us the source afterwards.
Yeah. So, a PSYOP, or psychological operations, are operations to convey selected info and indicators to audiences to influence their motives and objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of governments, orgs, groups, and large foreign powers.
So this video that I saw, he was talking about how in the Gulf, at the Gulf of Tonkin, they used questionable reports to justify escalating involvement in Vietnam. And Operation Northwoods, they used fake attacks in 1962 to justify military action against Cuba. And then again, the way that they reported after 9/11 was to justify the Patriot Act and increasing surveillance. And he goes into like these like steps of a PSYOP, test and reveal to the public. Starts with normalization, where people like just talk about it all the time, to see if people are going to get panicked, setting the stage for a reveal, a need for a savior, and several other steps. And so, like, if that's what's going on, like, what would that be for? More surveillance?
It's just I mean, it's the same thing that's been done throughout history. It's multifaceted levels of propaganda
Yeah.
that are made worse by high tech, like drones.
Yeah. And probably made worse also by the fact that with social media, like, it can't just be like a little rumor some people know. Like, everybody is seeing it.
Exactly.
You have like thousands of videos on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and whatever else. Yeah, so
Reddit.
yeah, on Reddit. Yeah. I hope they're aliens.
You could post about it on Threads, where you could get either 3 likes or 900.
Right.
Threads is so random.
Right? Like, you put a shitload of effort into a post and you get 0 engagement.
That's me.
No, but yeah, I think psyops are so much more insidious than people think. It's way more than just distracting people. It's way more than just trying to trick people. It's deep the fuck down. It's completely normalizing things that are way out of the ordinary. Things
Yeah.
that are just straight up evil that governments around the world do, especially ours here in the US. And
Yeah.
so it's really just fomenting general public support for extremely insidious acts that the state wants to act on.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I
exactly
mean,
it.
oh, sorry, Kimmy.
No, I was just agreeing with Gordon.
I mean, I think that if it is, personally, I think if it definitely, I mean, I think it's pretty clear it's the government. If it is the government, I think it's got to be a PSYOP for something, probably more surveillance, probably to normalize drones being in the sky all the time, as like a heightened, quote unquote, you know, security measure. Maybe that'll be our version of the Iron Dome. I don't know. I can't explain these plasmoid orb things. I mean, but there's so many things that are just optical illusions, right? Um, I was hoping that they would be aliens. And I did see one TikTok about it where the guy was talking about how like if aliens had been living in the ocean, like those intelligence experts, uh, and again, you're not gonna. I know a lot of people that are not politicians. They work for the government, but they are not like elected, and they would not lie under oath because they understand that that would be prison time, for them. And I'm intrigued by the idea that there have been aliens living in our oceans for um, centuries. Uh, that would mean that they didn't have to use high tech anything to get here, right? That would have meant that they were there all along. Um, but anyway, I saw one video where the guy was saying, well, if they are aliens and they're coming out of the ocean and maybe they're coming to warn us about what we're doing to ourselves. And even though it's probably not plausible, it's probably most likely the government. I do think that that's a nice kind of like message that people should perhaps take pause and think about like the way that we're behaving. Like we just passed Christmas, and I think on Black Friday, people spent $11 billion in consumer sales. I don't know if you guys have seen that Buy Now movie that I was saying we should do an episode about consumerism. Uh, and like we're destroying the planet. We are destroying ourselves. We are continuing to engage in these fucking wars that are totally unjust. We're putting so much injustice out into the world. So I thought that was a nice message, though unlikely. So, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, they made a movie about aliens living in the ocean in the 80s, right? It's called The Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just on a side note, so yeah, I mean, the idea of it is there, right? It's been there for a long time. Um, if the idea that it could be aliens, not just in New Jersey flying drones, but there are actual aliens living here. I
Mm-hmm.
say, let's see it. Let's have it. Why not at this point, right?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I want.
Here in the U.S., our society is crazy enough just here in this society
Yeah.
where we could bring on aliens. Like, what the fuck? Like, why not? Like, we have
Yeah.
so much crazy shit that we normalize all the time.
Can you imagine the bootlicking of the aliens that would happen from Elon Musk?
Yeah. Well, from a lot of people. Yeah.
Especially him.
Did
Oh,
you
the
guys?
check
Well, if they're
bros.
real, he's probably one, I feel.
Yeah, he might
Probably.
be.
Yeah.
I still can't figure out what the fuck the Space Force does.
They don't do a damn thing from what I can see, except take tax dollars.
It seems like that to me too. Like it seems like Trump was just bored, right? And he was just kind of sitting around in the Oval Office, and he was like, "You know what I should do? I'll create another branch."
Yeah.
I think somebody made a joke to him, and he turned that into an idea, like a bar bet,
Right? Oh,
like
that makes sense. Like,
like
oh,
the same way he ran for president.
you won't
Like,
do it.
Yeah.
You won't create a
you're
military
not gonna
branch.
do that. The fuck I won't. Watch.
Well, the one thing I will say about the Space Force is in like an interview about a year ago, Vladimir Putin made this comment about shooting nuclear warheads from a space station. And so so I want to say this with a big caveat. A Space Force is a good idea in light of that. But can the United States create a Space Force that could counter something like that? Fuck no. Like, fuck no.
Not only that, even if we could, we should spend billions of dollars past that point to be able to do that. We should not have
Yeah.
to create an entire fucking branch.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so much money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Uh I forgot what I was gonna say. I agree with you, Craig, though, about like if there are aliens here. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I see all these videos of like high level like security and intelligence officers like in the White House and in the Pentagon talking about how like the American people can't handle like the truth about things. And I feel like that is something that is a paradigm in US government that really fucking pisses me off, because you see it like nationally and you see it locally also, that Americans just don't understand, and they can't handle the truth, and they just can't take it, and we have to protect them, and we know better for them than what's good for them. And they apply that principle to so many things, be it, aliens or defense secrets, or not secrets, but defense anything.
We even do it for the drinking age here.
Yeah,
When you
yeah,
treat people like they're stupid, they act stupid.
exactly.
I mean, in general, the idea that people anywhere, but specifically the United States, couldn't handle something like that, I think that's definitely true. There are some people that couldn't handle it. Now,
Yeah.
should the United States government be the arbiter of that? Fuck no.
No. Yeah.
They're the last people on the planet that should have any say about that.
Yeah.
They're the most nefarious fucks around. Like, but it's I kind of liken it to, everything's a conspiracy theory when you don't know shit about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you don't know how anything works.
When you don't when you don't know how anything works, everything's a conspiracy theory.
True. Did you guys ever watch that movie about Bob Lazar?
No, I don't think so.
So, Cammy, have you heard of Bob Lazar?
I don't know who that is.
So, this guy, I don't know if it was in the 80s or the 90s, he starts going on the radio and on
He was a biologist that worked at Area
yeah.
51.
Yeah, he starts going on the radio and TV, talking about, like, coming out with things that he experienced at Area 51. And I think he published a book too. There's a great movie about him on Amazon, and then there is an hours long, like multiple hours long interview with Joe Rogan, also interviewing Bob Lazar. And there's also video footage of his home being raided by the FBI, because the rumor is that before Bob Lazar stopped working at Area 51, he stole some kind of like mineral that they had found on like a supposed crashed UFO that he claims to have worked on. He's drawn like pictures of these things. He's published like details about all the things that they worked on there. Is any of it true? I don't know. Is he just some crazy guy? But what is so crazy about it is that he really was raided by the FBI like multiple times. And you're like, why? Like,
Didn't
if
they
he's
try to
just
do
some
some similar shit too, like break up his relationship with his wife that the FBI did with MLK?
yeah,
Where they were trying to like
yeah,
basically say that he was
yeah,
having affairs and shit.
yes,
Oh no.
yeah, crazy shit. And it's like, well, if he's just a conspiracy theorist, or if he's just this fucking crazy guy, that you accidentally hired for a while and then had to let go once you realized he was off his shit, like, why go to these lengths to discredit him?
I'd be willing to bet that he went down, he just went off the deep end.
Yeah.
Like the same thing with the Havana syndrome folks. Like he worked in a secretive part of the government, right?
Mhm.
And it just got to him, right? And he stopped being able to identify what's real and what's not, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, as far as the Havana syndrome goes, like, you mean to tell me a bunch of people working for the CIA who got drunk and then are hungover the next day are freaked out about stuff? Like, of course they are.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're spies. That's their job, especially in Cuba. Like, if it was anywhere else except maybe China or Russia, you might be onto something, right?
Mhm.
But like, they're just paranoid.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Bob Lazar, the movie, and the Rogan podcast episode, I've watched both. It's interesting. It's interesting to see I mean, I didn't even think that like what he was saying he saw at Area 51 was interesting because it was like same old shit, like flying discs, different minerals, alien bodies, the same shit. What was interesting to me is like the government's response to it because it's just why is this necessary? And I do think that that is a great example of how the US government tends to make things exponentially worse for no reason at all. Like you're just giving you're just giving credence to his claims by raiding his fucking house multiple times. Or is it one of them was like his work, like his shop. Like they raided his place of employment looking for some fake mineral that probably doesn't exist that could supposedly uh reverse gravity or something like that, and that was supposedly how the spaceship he worked on was, I don't know, bunch of crazy shit. But like, why does the government have to make it worse? This is the same with right now with the UAPs and the UFOs. You're making it worse by fucking coming out here and denying over and over and over again what people are seeing before their faces.
Think about this for a minute. The about the making it worse point. Has there ever been an upper level management person that was competent
No.
in any way, shape, or form in any business or any part of the government? Right? That like they're gonna make it worse because they're incompetent, right? They don't know how to actually deal with something. Chances are he did steal something. He
Yeah.
probably stole something he wasn't supposed to take, not even necessarily classified. He just stole a piece of government property. And who knows, right? And they found out and they went and got it. And he, like I said, if I remember seeing that when you started talking about it, I remember seeing a documentary about that guy back in the like late 80s, early 90s, whenever it was.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, is there fishy stuff going on? Of course there is. But like, did he steal a mineral from a downed spacecraft? No.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, to your point, Craig, the government is full of middle managers. That is what I learned when I was in graduate school. The government is full of middle managers who push pencils around, uh, bark orders at people for to do stupid shit that does nothing, and just make things.
100%.
Yeah, it's like it really is like Kafka, like a Kafka novel, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the federal government is like being in a Kafka novel.
Just
And
endless bureaucrats.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
hilarious. So like chances
Bureaucrats who
are
make too much money.
like that guy in particular, he probably took something
Yeah.
that he wasn't supposed to. And his boss, who's incompetent, freaked out because would come back to his boss.
Mhm.
Right. It ended up being his boss's responsibility that it got stolen because either they didn't follow some protocol they were supposed to follow, or who knows why. Right. So he
Mhm.
freaked out and then ordered the raid or whatever. Like that's to me the most likely scenario.
Yeah.
Just so because he didn't want to get fired. So
Yeah,
he had to
it's
make it look like that guy was the bad guy, which he might have been anyway. But
ass saving 101.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And just like going back to like it's so weird, like the twisted psychological logic of the US government that we can't tell people the truth because they'll panic. It's like you're
Mhm.
causing a panic because you're not telling the truth.
Right.
Exactly.
100%.
And I mean, there are so many people who are like really, really panicked about this. And it's not good. It is
Yeah.
not good. This is just like so many other things over the last several years, the election, COVID, now bird flu. You have people that are making really, really objectively bad decisions based on that panic.
You can make people
Uh,
do anything when they're afraid.
Yeah. And it's not it's not rational decision making that's going on here, and it's 100% because the government is fomenting it, with the secrecy and the silence. I just don't understand why we have to have so many secrets in the government anyway. Like, you know, uh, again, like we are all adults and we can take it, right?
Yeah.
But well, maybe some people can't, but That's
yeah,
also a
just like,
product of our own doing. That's a
yeah,
product of our own doing.
right.
We created that.
Yeah,
It
from
is,
defunding education for the last 40 years.
Exactly.
yeah,
No,
and
exactly. That is exactly the point.
right, and just sticking to the topic too, on like UAPs and UFOs. I think back at the Roswell incident from the 40s. I mean,
Mhm.
decades and decades, the government has been lying about this shit. So at first they say, because think about this. This is the height of the Cold War. So the government at first goes, "Oh, this is a weather balloon. We had to shoot it down because it was the USSR," and then
Mhm.
and then they go, "Oh, it's a spacecraft. It's a how did they describe it? It's a flying disc, I think is what they
Yeah.
said, and that even came out in the newspaper." And then they backtrack and they're like, "Oh, no, no, no! It was in fact a weather balloon." So they just go back and forth,
Yeah.
and this is where this the height of UFOs develops in the 50s, and this is
Yeah.
also kind of like the dawn of the CIA. Area 51 gets created in the 50s. The U-2 spy plane, all this shit comes out of that. This fascination. Also, War of the Worlds, I think, was written in the 50s.
Oh,
And
man.
in the War of the Worlds, didn't they do like a radio program and people actually believed that it was happening?
Yes.
There were people killing themselves
Yeah, they
because
Yeah.
of that broadcast.
mass panic because of
Yep.
that.
Because
And
he
then
made it the way he did the broadcast made it sound like a news story rather than prefacing it as fiction.
Right.
right.
H.G. Wells, right?
Yep, Wells.
Yeah, and I mean that gets back to that issue of like people are making incredibly drastic decisions based on like these lies, these like stories or fantasies or whatever the fuck they are because they are seeing drones in the sky and then they're panicking and it's like I don't know.
Right. And I also kind of have a take here as well. It's a symptom of privilege too, I think, right? That we have the fascination. We can just look up at the sky and think about, oh, there's a drone up there. Meanwhile, there's people in Gaza that have nothing. They're just fucking blown to bits.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really good point,
Yeah.
Jordan. I have like a friend that never really cares about anything that's going on in the world, but always cares about like this weird conspiracies that
Mhm.
doesn't affect really anyone, and it's like, interesting that you're bringing this up, but you're totally blind to what actual horrors are being taken place and perpetrated by like our government with our tax dollars. So,
Yep.
but it's like almost like a show or a blindness, and I also think it's interesting. A lot of the reports of like aliens were from the USA, like even though like out of the whole world, most of them are from people living in the USA. So I think that's
Yeah, or even when people have report like when a video is from a place outside the USA, supposedly, allegedly, it's still being shared by people in the USA. Like the videos or it's USA centric. Like the drones over UK, they were over the US embassy and they were all shared by people in the US.
We do this all the time too, um, in the U.S., right? If there's a deadly plane crash in Ethiopia, the first thing the news says is, "Oh, there were 4 Americans that were killed."
Yeah, that's the only reason they report on it if there's an
Yeah,
American involved.
or there was an American citizen or something. Like, fuck the rest of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a great point, Cami, about how like people only seem to really care about things that have like a Hollywood aspect to it, right? Stuff, shit they've seen in the movies or shit they may see a movie about, and everything else they don't really seem to care about. And I mean, that might get back to that issue we were talking about before we started recording about like people just being desensitized to things now. Um, m- I think that like I was talking about, being at Christmas and then there were all these people that were there coughing all over each other and sick, and everyone just didn't seem to give a shit about like the people that actually should not be there with sick people coughing on them. And it seemed like people were just totally desensitized to that, and I think they're desensitized to a lot of other things also. So yeah, unless it's flashy, right? Unless it's flashy Hollywood. I guess aliens and ghosts might be the only thing that qualifies as that anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever else captivates the imagination, I suppose. I think that's I have everything I wanted to say. You guys have anything else? Cool. I think this was a really awesome episode. Thanks for putting this
Yeah.
together, Heather.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Craig,
that was
shout
great.
out.
Super interesting.
Craig, shout out your podcast. Where can people find you?
Oh yeah, sweet. Hey, you guys have seen me before. Craig, host of Voices from the Left podcast. Thanks for having me on. You can find me on Instagram at dystopian_grift. And on Blue Sky, same handle. So yeah, see you around.
Yeah, thanks again for joining. For those that don't know, Craig and I co-founded the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network as well. If you are an anti-capitalist podcaster and you are interested in joining a network, take a look at our website and fill out an application. We'd love to hear from you. As always, the 805 Uncensored is on all the major social media and podcasting sites. If you have any comments, questions, guest suggestions, shoot us a message. We would love to hear from you guys. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night, morning, evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Stay safe out there. Free Palestine, and the revolution is you.